everybody. My name is Tatiana, and and I'm the founder of the Game Shift Academy. Today we are broadcasting from different places. You broadcasting still from Roatan. We go from Canada, right? Dean is from Canada, I believe. Perfect. Yep. Czech Republic, and I believe Edgar is also from Roatan. If it's the Edgar, I think it is. So hello everyone, and yeah, today we're hosting Dean. Dean is a father of 5 kids. He also is a man who is incredibly devoted to his path of helping people or providing people with interesting information on how to make their lives better. Probably we will actually hear more about him. I don't know much about him, which is the exciting part. But I guess he is actually the one who improves people's life through understanding how you can be a successful dad, successful parent. And so far, as much as I know, he has taken some incredible education. He's been on a big path, and he is also a technical wizard, which is something I admire a lot. So Dean, the stage is yours, and tell us all about you.
Well, thank you for having me here, Tatiana. I appreciate that. I had a really great interview with you last week. I really enjoyed that. And it was really refreshing to hear your perspective on spirituality, the law of attraction, what our purpose is, the physical journey we're having, all those different things that we shared when we were on that particular call.
Thank you.
And obviously we've connected well because now I'm on your show. And I really, really appreciate that. I'm thankful that Edgar and Eric are here, and anybody else that's live on the Facebook. I don't see anybody else at this point, but that's okay. There's always room for the replay. So just a little bit about myself. I come from a small town in Northern Ontario, Canada, 400 people, small town. And my dad was the mayor, and he taught me what he thought I needed to know. He taught me how to be tough, how to be, a man, how to be a warrior, as a matter of fact, because when I was 12, I went home. On the way home, I got accosted by 3 native boys, and they beat me up fairly soundly. And I went home to my dad to say, Dad, I just got beat up by 3 native boys. And my dad, being a World War II fighter pilot veteran, he beat me up because there was only 3 of them. And that taught me how to be very, very aggressive, how to be very unforgiving in a lot of ways. But it also taught me how to avoid my spiritual self, how to get away from the truth of who I am. And I spent a lot of years not realizing that I was on the wrong path. And my spiritual self kept trying to reconnect with me. As a matter of fact, I had recurring nightmares shortly after that. And I ended up in a place where what I was running from in those nightmares, I later discovered, was actually my spiritual self trying to connect with me. And it was those nightmares recurred for, jeepers, 6 months or so. And then I decided I needed to do something before I fell asleep that would give me more peace of mind. So I taught myself to meditate without even realizing it. And the way I did that was I allowed my mind to wander, but I kept track of where my mind wandered. So I bookmarked where my first thoughts were. And I let my mind go to that next place. Hey, there's John Paul. Good to see you, John Paul. I went to that next place in my mind. You know how your thoughts wander, thought to thought to thought to thought. And I counted those transitions to 20. And then I bookmarked that 20th transition. And then I backed up my thoughts to get back to that original bookmark. And I later discovered that that's a very deep form of meditation. And I didn't even know that at the time. I just did it to give myself peace so that I could fall asleep without having that nightmare. And the beautiful thing was that it actually stopped me having from that nightmare, because it reconnected me to my spiritual self, even though I didn't know it at the time. But I still wandered. I still struggled with my spirituality, being the son, the youngest son, and my older brothers and sister were grown up and gone from home. So I was much younger, and I didn't, get a lot of support from family. My dad was always busy with the business. So I was kind of like an only child. And anytime I met certain people of an older ilk, they always said, oh, there's Dean Brown. That's Mike and Pat's brother, or Jim Brown's son. I was never who I was supposed to be. And my identity was always overshadowed by those other people, that older nuance of who I was, or who I was expected to be. And I struggled a lot with that over the years, and it cost me my marriage, and it cost me, an opportunity with my family. In 2008, when everything crashed, I lost a $100,000 a year job, not unlike you, Tatiana, where you found yourself in a happy place, but chose to change it and embrace all those fears, where you became a ship captain and a dive instructor and all those different things. Well, I tried to become a business owner as opposed to an employee, and I didn't embrace it very well. I didn't really know how to be a business owner at the time, and I ended up failing and failing miserably. I spent more time in small claims court trying to get paid than I did actually doing the business, and that was a bit of a challenge for me. And a couple of years later, I felt like there was no hope, and I actually tried to kill myself a couple of times. That's when my spiritual self, the universe, stepped in. The first time it was by one person that was a stranger that saved me. And then I was in a mental institute for a little while. I convinced the doctors that I wasn't going to try again, knowing full well that I would. And then when I tried again the second time, it was actually one of my children that saved me. Even they didn't actually catch me in the act. What happened was they weren't there for me to say goodbye to before I left to go do the thing, and I didn't go because I didn't want to leave them with that mental trauma of their dad just left and now he's dead. And of course, I was all mixed up at the time, so I didn't even realize I was doing that anyways. But I had to repair my mind. I had to reconnect to my spirit and my soul. And that's where I started my journey. And that's where all the training came in. That's where all the self-awareness started to build into a place that was actually connected to my true self. And here I am today helping other people get past that. I actually have mentored other men not to commit suicide. And I am helping John Paul. I'm a mentor for John Paul at this time. And I'm just really, really appreciating the opportunity to meet with people like you, Tatiana and Eric and John Paul and Edgar and all you people on Facebook, and just be in that place where I can repair not just myself, but the things that I've done to other people. And that's my journey now.
No, it's absolutely beautiful. It's definitely very inspiring, and I think there is a lot of ideas about suicide, and there is a lot of idea about death. In fact, I was just yesterday listening to like a long podcast about death and everything that comes around it and is about it. And obviously, there are so many things that we should be probably taught, and death is actually one of them. And I believe, that those people who decide to actually leave this place, they're not weak, they're actually very strong. I believe you need to be incredibly strong to actually make that kind of decision, or you need to be forced to that condition. And when I say forced, I mean not knowing how to help yourself, basically. So I think it's very, very nice that you're sharing this story with us, because I can imagine that there is many people in uneasy situation. I can imagine many people have at least once in their life at least the thought, I wonder how much easier it would be not to be here.
Right. And that thought gets prevalent and powerful, that's for sure.
Absolutely. So that's really nice. So what kind of modalities do you use? How do you actually help people?
So I teach them to meditate as much as I'm able. Everybody has their own choice, their own pre-definition of what meditation is, how difficult it could or should be or should not be, how to do it. A lot of people use a guided meditation, and everybody has their own path when it comes to meditation, unless they actually have a one-on-one teacher at the time. And I've learned how to, reconnect with myself and get into that place where I can step away from who I am and observe and be more aware and more congruent with who I am and my purpose. And also, I also believe very much in visualization, affirmations, gratitudes. I live by the law of attraction. So, it's always about vibration within the heart, the mind, what you say, what you do, and just being in congruence with the vibration of love. It's the highest vibration there is. It's the most powerful vibration. It's the one that connects us to other people. It's the one that helps us create new life. And it's the one that makes a difference for most people when they're allowing themselves to connect with that vibration. Other modalities I use are based on research. So I kind of adopt a lot of the training that I've received over the last little while. I've received some very powerful, very expensive training, and I'm pushing six figures with respect to my training in the last 3 or 4 years, and that's a lot of money. And but money is not the key. It's not you don't get value. You got to put skin in the game to get value. and that value has to be something that actually means something to you and allows you to transform. And that's where I went, and that's the part of the journey that really made a difference for me, connecting with myself, connecting with that wisdom, that knowledge from other people, and being in that place where I could blend it and share it with other people and give them the opportunity to realize that, hey, if Dean can do it, I can do it. And that's a pretty powerful awareness for other people.
Even though I would eventually like to speak about the dad of 5 kids and how to help other dads, let me actually explore another department of human being, because obviously there probably won't be that many people like you, or like we all have different paths, we all have different initiation. Your initiation was actually through facing death or choosing death. So if you don't mind, let's speak a little bit more about it, because like I said, who knows which other guest will be willing to speak about it into the depth you can, or you want to, or you have the experience. So what back then death meant to you and what now death means to you, is there a difference?
Oh, 100%, 100%. Back then, death was an escape. Death was a place to go because I couldn't make it go here in life. And it was, in a lot of ways, the courage was out of desperation to actually be willing to do that to myself, and committed to doing that to myself. As a matter of fact, I tried twice, so it's not like I was joking. I took it quite seriously and was intent on it. But at the same point in time, I was desperately trying to connect with who I am and what my purpose was, which was why I felt that I didn't have one. I didn't have hope. I didn't have purpose. I had been allowing the external world to convince me that I didn't have that, and that I couldn't find that. And the only answer was to escape the whole journey and go back to spirit, not even knowing that I was going to go back to spirit, just wanting to have the agony end, the desperation end. Now, when I look at death, I look at it as a brother to life, because that is our natural transition back to our spiritual self. And there's no need to rush it. We're here to have our experience. We're here to be that physical being that's having that contrasting experience to help our spiritual self appreciate our spirituality more. Because as our spiritual self, we're perfect, and we don't understand how perfect we are. That's why we're here having the physical experience, to give us that contrast. Our spiritual and physical self is the two ends of the same stick. And the contrast is what connects us for wisdom. And in that connection, we learn what it means to be spiritual by experiencing things physically and realizing that, hey, wait a second, there's a lot of power in that wisdom, in that knowledge, in that experience. And that makes our spiritual connection even more precious and more deep, because we realize the lessons we're learning that we're going to take back to our spiritual realm when we get there. So that's the way I look at it now.
That's really, really wonderful. Perfect. Is there anything that you teach your kids about this transition, death, life? Is there anything you try to explain to your kids?
100%. So because of what happened back then, and it was, quite a while ago, I have a couple of my 5 kids that actually don't like to talk to me because they don't understand what I did. They don't understand why I did it. And they're holding on to that old anger. They're not giving themselves the chance to pass through and come on the other side into awareness. With the children that I am communicating with, we have a great relationship. They listen to me with dedication. They understand that I have great wisdom. And those children are influencing the other children, which is that's a part of life. We are influenced by other people that we're around, we're connected to. And the children that I communicate with now, one is a mother, and she's the only of my 4 daughters. She's the 3rd daughter that I've had, but she's the first one to have children. And she's doing a great job of cultivating her son, my grandson. She's not trying to do what my dad did with me by force his personality, like cloning me into another person like him. She's allowing him to become himself. She's encouraging him to become himself. And she's very, very loving and open to the fact that he's going to be himself. And that's the way we should be when we raise our children. As a matter of fact, I shouldn't say raise, I should say cultivate, because we're not here to raise another us. We're here to cultivate a new being. And that's the way I approach it with my children. And that's the way I try to teach other parents to approach it. You know, if the parent, or excuse me, the child has a strong character, don't try to suppress that strong character. Try to understand it and nurture it and build it up, because that child with that strong character is going to become a very powerful human if you give them the opportunity to explore that strength of character.
So what made you actually go, because, you know, through our initiations and through our struggles in our lives, then we sharpen ourselves as a diamond and we set ourselves onto some path. So your experience with being suicidal, how that led you to actually now wanting to be helping dads with kids? Like, what is the connection between those two?
So for me, it was just simply allowing myself, giving myself permission to grow into who I meant to be, and the purpose that I have, and connecting with that source energy, the universal intelligence that was the whole time trying to support me, trying to guide me, trying to protect me. And I try to nurture that connection and try to be in a place where I don't say try, I do nurture that connection, and I do embrace that connection. I apologize for using the word try. As a Star Wars fanatic, and I love yoga, he always said there is no try, there is do and there is not do. So, but for me, that connection is letting other people know that they have people that love them, and they have permission to accept that love, and to be in a place where that hopelessness doesn't have to be their only focus.
Absolutely, absolutely. So how do you think your story can help other dads with raising their kids? And how do you think your story can help other dads creating a better business, good business, be successful human?
It's about giving yourself permission and not judging yourself. A lot of people struggle in life when they get into that self-judgment. I didn't do that well. I can't do that. I failed at this, so I'll fail at that. And that judgment, that self-punishment is what holds us back from growth. It's what holds us back from learning how to apologize to our children, from learning how to accept what another person at our workplace or in our business has potential to do. We get into that judgment where that person is not good at the job I gave them to do. And we put everything in a box. And that box has no chance of growth. That box has no chance of success simply by the fact that it's in a box. It can't go to the next level. It can't go to the next place. It can't grow. It can't expand because of that definition that puts it in that box. And if we allow ourselves to drop the judgment and not consider punishment, then we can say, wait a second, that person may not be good at such and such, but wow, are they ever good at this thing over here? I just need to shuffle my awareness of who they are and what they can do, and let them choose that application of who they are and what they can do, or ask for it, or gravitate towards it, and just become that better person by me not judging and restricting them. And that goes for my children, it goes for my business partners, it goes for my coaching clients, it goes for the people I mentor. Accept who you are, don't fight against it. And another thing that happens a lot is people focus on their weaknesses and just accept their strengths. And the reason I say that is because if anybody's ever gone home with a report card from school, what did your parents do? They ignored the A+ and they punished you for the C. And it's like, really? Why didn't you support me on the A+ so that I could be an A max and be like super good at whatever it is that I'm already showing myself to be good at, rather than ignoring what I'm good at and punishing me for what I'm not good at? And that's the societal mentality that's holding all of society back today. All of society is being reminded and punished for what they don't do well, rather than being congratulated and given permission to expand what they do well.
Well, I've got Jean-Paul and Eric. By the end of our talk with Dean, I would actually like you to share with us how was your childhood. If you also experienced that kind of overpowering pressure of society or the male figure, the father figure, because maybe it is something that was related to our childhood, maybe not so much nowadays. I would hope that nowadays parents are becoming more enlightened and more understanding. And Dean, one more question, maybe. Obviously you're a man, you have your male experience. Is there any difference between male world and female world, women and men, their approach to life? Because I kind of understand what you say in a sense that the pressure of society when we were kids was some. Now we have different, and now actually the last year we have completely different. So obviously the pressure is changing all the time, or is shifting all the time. So how do you think so obviously I understand that your father was like a very strong alpha male who wanted to bring the best out of you by telling you just stand up for yourself and don't be a sissy and you can do it and you can beat up 5 of them. And obviously he didn't have any bad intentions. He just thought this is who you should be to be a proud warrior. So what do you think, or do you have any idea how women were treated or are treated? I don't think are now, but back then.
Yes, I do. I had an odd relationship with my mother. She was an alcoholic and actually drank heavily while I was in her womb. And it's a miracle of the spirit of the universe that I don't have fetal alcohol syndrome, because she was the mayor's wife and she could go in, and my dad owned a hotel that sold alcohol. So she had unlimited supply of that thing that she used to try to escape. And she was taken away. She was sent away when I was 3 to an institution. And I was raised by a woman that my dad married quickly and tried to convince me, tried to hide that she wasn't my mother and not tell me that she was my stepmother. But that caused a friction in our relationship, and she was actually abusive to me mentally. And I actually came close to murdering her when I was about 11 or actually no, about 13 years old. And that's when they realized that they needed to have me reconnect with my real mother. And when I was reconnected with my real mother, I didn't know how to treat her. I had the wrong idea of what a mother was. And she came right out and she said, you're a little prick. You need to go away until you can become my real son. And she actually closed the door in my face and said, don't come back till you can be my son. So I went away for 10 years to determine what it meant to be a son and have a mother. And when I did go back, she embraced me with open arms, and we had a wonderful relationship for 5 years until she passed away. And that experience for me gave me a totally different perspective on what it meant to be a mother and a woman, and the power of the character of women, not just as women, but as mothers, and the beauty of the strength of their love, where they are able to make those choices, where they could actually say to that son, because she used to watch me from a distance play, and I didn't know. She was actually court ordered not to go near me. So she would watch me play. She would drive for an hour and a half to watch me play in the schoolyard. And I never knew. And that whole time, if I would have just looked over, I would have seen my real mother. And I grew up not knowing that she was watching me that closely. And when she shared with me, the power of her love, of her dedication to a child that she couldn't, by the rules of law, was meant, restricted from being with, taught me huge lessons about what it means to be a parent, to be a mother, to be a loving woman. And I really, really respect the strength of all mothers and all women and anybody that has the opportunity to raise someone else's child. From my stepmother's perspective, I was a little monster to her and didn't know that I was, not being fair to her. And it came as an awareness slowly and yet suddenly, because when it finally clicked, it was like, oh man, what powerful, beautiful beings women are.
Very, very nice. Thank you very much. Listening to your story, you shared with us some, and now through my another question, we learn the other half of it, which is pretty strong as well. So what is very important to me when I'm looking at you and I'm hearing you is that many people has gone through similar childhood like you, better or worse, and there is a huge difference, and at some point you're gonna be reacting, you know, you're gonna have the resentment, and you're not gonna like situations, you're not gonna be able to connect with world because you don't have the ability, because nobody taught you the right ability. So obviously there is gonna be a time of confusion, and then basically you choose, maybe not you as such, because it also depends on who you truly are inside, but you know, then people kind of make the decision, okay, from now on I'm going to be growing and I'm going to become a coach and I'm going to help others. Or you're going to be like, no, I'm a victim and I'm always going to be a victim, and world is no good, world is no fair. And basically you probably, it's going to be very difficult to enjoy life on any level. So it's very nice for me, you know, to speak to someone like you who has gone through obviously all of that and decided, no, I'm actually going to spend $1,000 becoming better and help others how to do that.
And the choice to spend that money didn't involve any hesitation, because I knew I needed that depth of wisdom from someone else, because I didn't know, and I needed to know, and I wanted to know, and I actually asked for tough coaches and tough mentors so that they would not be fluffy with me. They would not say, well, if you don't, you know, whatever. No, Dean, it needs to be this way. This is the only way to success. And that's, you know, I kind of needed that, because if I didn't have that, I might have chosen to go to the path of victimhood and not embrace the truth. So yeah.
Absolutely wonderful. Yeah. So obviously now you are in a new relationship. If I understand correctly, you have 3 new kids with a new woman, with a new wife.
Well, she already had the kids when we connected, and there was 2. So I had 5 on my own, or with my former wife, and then with my new wife, she has 2 children. So I actually have 6 daughters.
7. Nice. Cool. That's cool.
Look at Eric. He's going, oh my God, you've got 6 daughters.
You've been busy, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's nice though. It's very nice.
It's like you didn't have time to be unfaithful, I guess.
You know, and again, you know, like if you're gonna look at it from a perspective from the law of attraction kind of thing, you basically was a kid who didn't know what to do, and now you have the chance to work with 7 kids, basically, right? 5 and 2, if I understand correctly. If my morning mathematics are correct.
6 daughters and 1 son.
Okay, yeah, so 7 kids. Yeah, I was just hoping that 5 plus 2 is 7. So
it is.
Yeah, so it's actually really nice that, you know, from a confused kid, you're actually now growing 7 kids, or cultivating 7 kids, like you said, plus the 2 that don't really communicate much with you, but obviously that's gonna come eventually. Like you said, eventually there is going to be the switch in their head where they will decide, okay, I want to understand or I don't want to understand. It's gonna be 100% up to them, and eventually, you know, in the space of universe, they will understand anyway. We all will come to the same place, so
right.
That's perfectly fine. So now when you're looking at your current life, like right now, at this very moment, this very second, what is it you love about yourself the most?
Oh, who I am now is perfect. The abilities, the strengths, the experiences, the message, just the skills, all of that stuff that's blended. I actually had a coach in one of my programs previously say to me, Dean, let's pretend that you have the opportunity to go back in time, to choose a time in your past where you go back and talk to yourself or guide yourself to change something about who you are and make you become someone else. And I said, I don't want to go. I wouldn't be me if I went. And if I'm not, I've gone through so much to become aware of who I am and have the ability to provide this powerful message, that if I was to change that, the power would leave the message. And since I've been in the womb by being guided for this purpose, right from the universe's first conception of who I was to become physically. When I made that choice to be born, I went to that place where the physical experience was going to be the most difficult of all, or at least of many, and bring me through to that place where now that I'm here, I'm invincible.
That's really, really powerful. That's really, really powerful what you say. You reminded me of one story that I'm going to ask you your opinion about. And it's really, I don't whatever I'm gonna say now, it doesn't mean that I necessarily believe it, but let's be playful. So one of the playful ideas I had in the past, or was introduced to, was that before we made a decision to be born into our physical reality here on this planet Earth, we are deciding what is the best choice for our soul's journey. But sometimes we still not coming from a space of the highest consciousness. We're still coming from a layer below that, right? Like it's the layer just before we put the last layer of the physical body. So obviously it's not necessarily the most conscious part of us. And so there might be some guys, and they might say, well, be careful, maybe you don't want to become, like you said, a son of an abusive father, not abusive father, but father with whatever idea. So maybe you don't want to be born from a woman that drinks alcohol, but you're like, no, I can do it. And then basically maybe you can't, or maybe you can. So what do you think about this story? Would this story resonate with you, that sometimes we make decisions, most of the time they work for us, and most of the time we can push through, but sometimes the decision was maybe a bit too much for us?
100%. And that's part of the experience. That's part of the universe always puts that next challenge in front of you to help you level up to your next state of being. And I knew, although the awareness wasn't connected until just recently, as a matter of fact, that one about being conceived and going through that in the womb through that alcohol bath, I didn't really make that awareness until not long ago. And it was one of those where the pieces are falling together, and as they fall together, I realized, wow, you really made some crazy decisions, and you leapt off the cliff without being sure you had the parachute on. And it was one of those where maybe you can fly. Right? Because we don't know what the end result will be. You never know. You only know the now. The now is the only thing you know. And we envision what we desire. We visualize the things that we'd like to be or have, but they are only manifested based on what our vibrational broadcast is to the universe. The universe gives us something we never would have thought of. And that's what's happened the whole time. It keeps coming back to me in such a beautiful bouquet of unexpected beauty and surprise, that it's one of those where I'm just glad I made those decisions that I did. And I'm going to keep making those wild and crazy decisions. Build the plane as you're flying it. And it's, I'm not concerned, because ultimately source energy is the source of all wisdom and knowledge. And I can't go wrong with that awareness.
Perfect. And maybe one last question before we give space to our three beautiful guests. And I'm just realizing that all of you are actually guys, and I love it, because I think it's very, very important for guys to be connecting and for guys to actually be part of these shows, because it's quite often women. So I'm very much appreciating now we have men. So my last question would be, so there is always something to improve. And then basically until we leave this body, there is, more to do. So what is your current thing you work on? What is it like? If there is one thing you would like to get rid of, the one last limiting belief, or the biggest limiting belief, or the scarcity mindset, or whatever doubt you have, self-doubt or whatever, what it would be that you would still like to work on and get rid of, or transform to something better, or whatever you want to call it?
I would probably be the time that I have in a day. For me, at this point in time, I'm creating a lot of content. I'm building a private group in my Facebook, as well as for my coaching. I'm expanding my coaching practice. I'm in a place where I spend a lot of time preparing to help other people. So I don't necessarily have as much time as I'd like to. And I also spend a lot of time with my wife on purpose, so that we have a solid relationship, a good connection. What I probably don't spend enough time with is on myself physically. I probably find myself, Eric admitted that he likes to drink a lot of coffee and have a lot of sweets. And I'm not unlike that. I like to enjoy maybe more coffee than I should. And I probably enjoy some of the wrong foods. So, for me, it's one of those where I just like to have more, I'm not sure, time or purpose towards developing my physical body, only because I'm pushing 60 years old and I'm not in perfect shape. Now I could be in a lot worse shape. I don't have, you know,
You
prevalent
look
aches and
25.
pain.
No worries.
Oh.
You look 25.
Thank you, sister. I appreciate that. And I feel 25. But at the same point in time, I know that if I was to go out there and try to run for a great distance, that I wouldn't get very far. And, you know, and I'm able to eat more than I should, and so on and so forth. So that having that personal control would be probably the answer to that.
That's really wonderful, and it's really interesting you say that, because actually Eric and we had exactly the same discussion a few days ago, where he asked me why I'm doing a little bit more of something, and I was trying to explain him exactly what you just said. That there is basically only 24 hours in the day.
Right.
Yeah, and it's true. I think what happens to people that are focusing on the outside, right? Like, of course, we do meditate, and of course, we do our self work and our self development. But then, right now, the life is about turning outwards, right? Like you said, creating the content, creating the awesomeness, creating the impact. So everything we do now, not everything, but majority is actually shining outside or about the outside. So I'm actually experiencing exactly the same. I'm actually in exactly the same situation. Just this morning, I was looking at my belly, wondering why is that there.
Because you chose for it to be there. Same as mine.
Yeah.
Mine's there for the same reason, right?
And then so definitely I'm actually facing exactly the same thing. So that's very nice. Anyways, guys, well, I would really like it if John Paul and Edgar, if you actually show your faces, or at least unmute yourself, and maybe share with us how was your upbringing. How did you I know that Eric will for sure have something to say. So if Eric doesn't mind, let's give a space to Jean-Paul, Edgar. Sometimes it's scary to speak on the camera when it's live, but please, it's easy. If you would like to share with us how was your upbringing, and maybe what was the good influence of your parents, your father, maybe something that might have been better or you appreciated different.
We may find that John Paul's at work and can't come on camera. Oh, there he is. Look at him. There he is at work.
Yes, I'm here at work.
Good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, no, I jumped off of my desk quick. My upbringing was I would say it was pretty good. I mean, my parents got divorced when I was young. I was the only child between them. They lived close together, but you know, I really didn't see my dad all too much, even when I was at his house, because he worked in the New York City sanitation department. So he was working nights and weekends. And so I spent a lot of time with my stepmom. And, you know, my dad was he's very good. He coached my basketball team. He tried to be there as much as he could, which was great. And it's kind of led me to where I'm at now with my daughter, because I'm divorced, you know, and my daughter took it pretty hard, but I make sure that I'm there as much as I can be. I mean, my job is a little demanding, so there's times where I miss a dinner date. I've had to miss a weekend here and there just because we were so busy. But I credit all that to my dad and my mom for staying friends through the divorce, not being bitter. They had a good relationship throughout. You know, the one thing that my dad was very strict on was, you know, get a city job, work sanitation, work police, work fire department. It's 20 years and out. You know, and I saw my dad, his health failed in the sanitation department, you know, bad back, it destroyed his body. And it was a snowball effect that got him to where he is today. Unfortunately, you know, he had a rod put in his back, and he moved to Florida after he retired, and he went for hip surgery, and they ended up breaking his back over the rod during the hip surgery. They had no idea. So now he's paralyzed from the abdomen down. Health is pretty much gone. It's to a point where, you know, I'm expecting a call, you know, anytime that he's not going to make it. So, you know, it's watching the strong man who raised me from a little kid and was always there and did as best as he could, pushing me to get a city job, which I wasn't interested in. You know, he took me to take city tests. He made sure I studied for him, and he just couldn't understand that I wanted more than that. You know, and I didn't care about retirement, because if I'm doing something I love, who wants to retire from that? So that was one thing that I think him and I butted heads on quite a bit. And, you know, but my mom was very supportive in a lot of things that I've done. You know, I've had different kind of jobs and learning a lot of learning experiences. So in all, I could say I had very supportive parents, and I'm happy that, you know, through their divorce, I learned how to handle mine with my daughter. You know, and that's the biggest takeaway I have from that.
That's really, really wonderful. That's absolutely incredible. So maybe I very much appreciate, maybe just let us know what you do. What is your job?
Right now, I'm a supply chain manager with the Home Depot. So I work in the supply chain part of the business, not the store. I focus on performance and project management in the building. You know, we're trying to turn some of our metrics around. So I'm taking the lead on that, making sure that we're performing and producing as much as we could, and our associates are doing the best they can be. But I'm also kind of like a pillar here for associate support. I'm in the process of becoming a health coach. I'm taking a certificate course with that. And like Dean said, he's going to be a mentor for me, and I can't wait to really form that relationship. And my plan is to leave Home Depot eventually and do life coaching as my full-time career. And you know, I had a calling because of COVID. I found that calling just by helping my associates here and realizing that, you know, for me personally, I had such a rewarding time talking to the associates on a personal level, dealing with COVID, than running the business. You know, for me, it's like the business is second to the associates. You know, making sure that they're good, and I realize my calling now is helping people. So I signed up for a health coaching certificate course back in March. I'll be finishing that sometime in mid-October, and I'm hoping that I can take this off and continue on this journey.
That's really wonderful. That was my next question. What is your dream job? So you just said that. So that's really cool. So
Yes.
welcome to the community of the coaches. Yeah. And when you are a coach, please get in touch and let's do live with you about actually how it's going, and let's share a little bit more fun. I would love to have you on the next live in October. So just please get in touch.
I will. Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. Do whatever you need to do. If you need to go back to work, you can do whatever. Thanks a lot for sharing. And
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks
for popping on, John Paul. It was great to see you, brother.
Thanks a lot.
Likewise, sir. Likewise.
And Eric, I'm sure you have some questions. You're always very inquisitive, which is something I love about you. So, what is it you would like to know?
Really, my Opa or my grandpa was pretty much my father figure when I grew up, and I didn't know my dad very well because he worked for General Motors and he was salaried, so he didn't get paid per hour, but by the year. And he worked like 60 hours a week. So it didn't matter how many hours he worked, but he needed to work to keep his well-paying job. So like we had a very comfortable life. We lived on a golf course, had like a 2.5-story house. We had a living room that we just used. It looked like a castle or something, where we only used it on like Christmas and Thanksgiving. And then we had the den where you can like do whatever you want, throw pillows around. But yeah, so yeah, it influenced me a lot. I decided I'm not going to be my dad. Like you were talking about, or rather John Paul was talking about 20 and out. At GM, they have like 30 and out, like for the union people. And my dad got bought out when he had 32 years in, so he retired. But at the time, he was about to have a heart attack. He was on high blood medication, and his face was beet red, and he never talked to us. He would come home from work like 6 p.m. and he started at 6:37 in the morning, and he would be in the backyard with a hose. You know, we had sprinklers, but he would just be there with the hose, just chilling out, and he didn't want to talk to anybody. So, but now that he's retired, we have a great relationship, and I figured out like who my father really is. And yeah, my parents divorced after I got married, and just as my sister or just before my sister got married, but she was engaged. So yeah. So, and then he could be more himself and honest now when he's not married to my mother. And like,
Eric,
so
what is the
he doesn't really, he says what's really on his mind, where before he like kept it to himself. Yeah, and another thing, yeah, my dad had a father who disciplined him with the belt physically. So my father used like the opposite approach, but he didn't even like touch me at all, like give me a pat on the shoulder, good job, or anything. So yeah, it was go to your room and think about what you did. And then normally, like, it was me and my sister were sent to our rooms, and then after we were like looking at, has it been long enough yet? That we really didn't think about anything, actually. And then me and my sister would open the door. Think it's been long enough yet? Okay, who's going to take the fall this time and say it's my fault? You know, when we closed the door. Like the only thing, yeah, like when we were young and we misbehaved, my mom had this wooden spoon and she hit us on the butt with it. But then when we were older, all we needed to do is hear the sound of the drawer opening, and we would run to our rooms and close the door and then think about what we did. And sometimes it did work. And sometimes we just had no idea what we did. We were just being kids. Okay. Tatiana, what was your question? You forgot.
My question was basically, if you can make it a little shorter and just go straight to the point, what was the biggest intake? What was the biggest intake? How did your father influence you the most, good or bad, or maybe both? What was the positive influence, and what was the influence that kind of made you like initiate it, let's say? But if you can make it like really short, maybe like 1 or 2 minutes.
Yeah, that I don't want the corporate life like he had, and just working like a slave, even though he had a high position and a high salary, but it was for nothing. So I wanted to make a difference, and I don't know. So I said my grandpa had a big, or my opa had a big influence on me. And he was a butcher, and he had to quit school before he finished high school. And then he had his own shop. And then in Australia, he also owned his own shop. And then in America, he was the manager of the department. But I felt, and then on my grandma's side too, there's lots of entrepreneurial people. So I had those influences to work, to have confidence that I can be an entrepreneur and work for myself, and that I don't want to be constrained for 20, 30, 40 years in some constructed reality and just saying, wait for that pension to come if you make it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for your sharing, Eric. Thanks, Jean-Paul, for your sharing. And maybe, Dean, if there is one last thing you would like to say to us, you would like to hear your message.
Absolutely. For me, I just like to share with everybody, give yourself permission to make mistakes, and give yourself permission to celebrate the wins. Don't focus on the mistakes, just be aware of them, learn your lessons, focus on the positive things in your life. When you go to bed at night, just acknowledge that you're a wonderful being and that you've done well through the day. There's no day you will ever experience where you've failed all day long. It doesn't happen. And a lot of people go to bed feeling that way. And that's how you end up with more failure the next day, as opposed to more success and victory. So just celebrate who you are, celebrate what you've done, celebrate the people that you love, and just find joy and happiness in everything that you can. Always look for the silver lining of those clouds. Just take life, embrace it with love, drop the judgment, don't even go thinking about punishment, and accept everybody for being a human that's doing the best they can with what they have at the time right now.
That's really, really wonderful. That's very powerful. Well, Dean, thank you very much. Jean-Paul, Edgar is gone. Eric, thanks a lot. You all were absolutely wonderful. I'm very happy for this beautiful company we had today. I think it's very important that we have this beautiful support, of the energy that just came today. And yeah, if you want to, Dean, you can share in our group, contact to your group, contact to your coaching. I'm sure there is many guys, many men who would like to exchange their ideas of being a father with yours. And yeah, guys, go ahead, speak up and reach out to Dean. I think Dean loves what he does, so I'm sure he's pretty good too. Okay, well, thank you very much, everybody.
I'm happy to do that, Tatiana.
One way or another. And I wish everybody a beautiful day, whether it's Europe, Canada, or the Caribbean. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.